Hi, folks. Here we are at the end of June 2023. So, today we're going to look at this episode, which includes Abraham and Isaac. And it's kind of a two-part thing where it's kind of a continue with Jesus is the true and better Abraham and Isaac. And so, let's dive in. We'll take a look at this and see what the Lord has for us in all this. And as you can see, on your screen, episode 5, Jesus the True and Better Isaac, part 1, because this is too much material, it's too rich. And so let's begin here with Genesis 21, 5 and 6. Abraham was 100 years old when he had his son Isaac. This is his only son, okay? I know he had Ishmael, but not with Sarah. And Sarah said, God has brought me laughter, and everyone who hears about this will laugh with me. And so we have this tie between the name Isaac, meaning laughter or laughter of joy, and so that's kind of neat, and it helps people remember the story of Isaac. And so now we're reminded that Jesus, the true and better Isaac, he's the true and better Isaac who was not just offered up by his father on the mount, but really Jesus, as we know, was truly sacrificed for all of us. So to our story in Genesis 22. After these things, all this stuff that we talked about in the previous episode, and there's a few more in there as you begin to read, if you read through Genesis. But after all these things, God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham, and Abraham said, here I am. And God said, take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I shall tell you. So Abraham rose early in the morning. And we don't hear Abraham arguing here. We don't hear him saying, well, later, Lord, or you can't mean this, or you're kidding me, or anything like that. We just see that Abraham gets up early in the morning, saddles his donkey, took 2 of his young men with him and his son Isaac, and he cut wood for the burnt offering, and arose and went to the place of which God had told him. Just think through that. How certain was Abraham? How confident was he in God? He's been told to offer up his son, his only son. That'd be so hard to do. On the 3rd day, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place from afar. Then Abraham said to his young men, stay here with the donkey. I and the boy will go over there, worship, and come again to you. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it on Isaac, his son. And he took in his hand the fire and the knife. So they went, both of them, together. And Isaac said to his father Abraham, my father! And he said, here I am, son. He said, behold, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? And Abraham said, God will provide for himself the lamb for a burnt offering, my son. So they went, both of them, together. And when they came to the place of which God had told him, Abraham built the altar there and laid the wood in order, and bound Isaac his son and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. Then Abraham reached out his hand and took the knife to slaughter his son. Well, what do we really get from this? This is kind of what we get. You know, Abraham doesn't really hesitate here at all, really. He just goes with God's command. You know, we think, don't ever think that God is tempting you to something. God does not tempt, but he does test us. We'll find, especially after someone becomes a believer, sometime right after that, for me, it was maybe a month or so, where I really got tested in my faith, and it was good, and it's something I totally remember, and it was a neat thing, but it was hard. It was hard to go through it. But what happens with us? We tend to think that God wants us to give up, Isaac. That God is saying to Abraham, I want you to give up Isaac to death. And we're kind of like that. We think that God wants us to give everything up to death. Or maybe we give everything up in order to somehow improve our status before Him, or just to do without in some sort of a terrible thing. But I think what God's really about here is positioning. He's saying, look, you need to give this up. It's like He tells us things are too important for you. And we know that. Just think about Romans 12, verses 1 and 2. He says, present your bodies as a living sacrifice. So this is kind of what's happening with Isaac here. He's a living sacrifice. Abraham is making the statement that, my God, I offer you my son as a living sacrifice. Instead, God wants us to live, but He wants us to live without all these other idols and things. He wants us to really live. He wants us to have that relationship with Him, that's so beautiful. He has a better thing in mind for us. I just was talking to a friend I hadn't talked to in about 30 or 35 years. And we started talking, in a minute we were back where we were then. And we were talking about retirement, and he said, I just retired myself. My son's bought my business. And he said, in January of 21, my wife was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And he said, knowing what I do know now, I wish I had retired when I was 60. Because right now I'm a permanent caregiver. And had I retired then, I would have had so much more time with her, so much more relationship there. And so that's the kind of thing that's sort of parallel to what we're trying to get through with what God is doing and what He's communicating here to us through Isaac, and saying, look, there's a richer, deeper plan and I have for you that's really wonderful. That you present your bodies as a living sacrifice and you get to know the living God. So what is it that what is it that's in the way right now with you? Is there something in your way that you say, no, I'm holding on to that no matter what? And can you let it kind of go like this, and let God take that away so you can have a richer relationship? Well, Abraham's going to find that out next time we meet in a couple weeks. He's going to come face to face with the nature and the reality of who God is, and it's going to be glorious. So I want to leave you with this thought from My Utmost for His Highest by Oswald Chambers. It is no value of God for you to give Him your life for death. He wants you to be a living sacrifice, to let Him have all your strengths that have been saved and sanctified through Jesus Christ. This is what is acceptable to God. Y'all have a great week. I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Take care. Hopefully I'll see you on Sunday.